Welcome back, Red Eyes members. We are talking with Adrian Gilbert. Very interesting conversation here about many different things, Egyptology being one, and we kind of interrupted a little bit just when we were talking about the experience that Adrian was having, or the when he was meeting this clairvoyant lady, who I guess Adrian had some kind of information to reveal or share with you regarding the shafts in the pyramid. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. I mean, I was asked to meet her by her publishers. This was at the time when the Orion mystery was really quite a big story. So they wanted to meet me to talk to her about, she'd received some diagrams that she claimed to have been, I don't know if abducted is the right word, but she, in spirit, could visit a flying saucer. Right? Mm-hmm. Sounds a bit bizarre, doesn't it? But she claimed that when she's there, that certain images were kind of imprinted into her mind, and then when she got back, she was able to draw them, what she had seen, and they involved pyramids and stars. So they asked me if I would have a look and see if these made any sense to me, because they didn't make any sense to them or to her.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I said, okay, well, I'm always game to find out. I don't believe that I know everything. I'm always keen to meet people, see what they have to say.
Of course.
So I went along, and she showed me these drawings. And the first one was really quite shocked me, because it was a picture of Gantenbrink's door. I recognized it immediately. Mm-hmm. But she had received this drawing on January the 10th, or 8th, sometime like that. And he had discovered that doorway on March the 21st, actually the day of the spring equinox. And another drawing that she had at the same time showed a kind of pyramid with a snake running down it. And I thought, well, that must be somehow connected with the Mexican pyramids, the one at Chichen Itza, where at the equinox, there's a kind of shadow snake that goes down the side of the balustrade.
An incredible display, that is.
Yeah, I've seen it. It is very amazing. Huh. But anyway, so I thought, well, that actually gives us the date, 21st of March, which is actually when Gantenbrink made the discovery.
Yeah.
So it seemed to me very interesting that she had almost, prophesied the discovery of the door on that day. And there were a couple of other diagrams I tried to interpret as well, but those are the two main ones. So I said to her, well, this is interesting. Can you tell me what's behind the door? So she said, well, I'll try and have a look, see if I can find out for you. And then a few weeks later, she contacted me and said, yes, I've been up there and I've had a look behind the door. And said it gave me a terrible headache going up there. So I imagine it would, going up that narrow shaft.
Yeah. Did she tell you anything more about how she did this? Because then it sounds like it was a strain on her in that sense to do it.
Yeah. I don't know, some kind of mental travel or something. I don't know. Oh. Remote viewing. But anyway, she came back to me and she had drawn had pictures drawn by an artist to draw them for her properly. And she said there's actually two rooms there. First one kind of got a kind of Anubis figure in there, a sort of guardian figure. And she said there were various things in there. There was a kind of boat and a few other bits and pieces. And she said you go through a doorway into another chamber, and on the wall there's a kind of half sculpted figure of a pharaoh with his arms crossed, holding the crook and the flail. Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't seem surprising. And she said there's a big sarcophagus in there, which is where he's buried. Right. And she said there's two big serpents down the lid, and at either end of the coffin, the tomb, there are about 4 foot high golden eagles, hawks. Yeah.
Right.
One at each end. And so I thought, well, don't tell the Egyptians or they'll knock down the pyramid to get the golden hawks. But, no, seriously, she didn't know why there would be golden hawks either end of it, but
also know the symbolism, do?
Well, yes. When I started investigating a bit further, I realized that what they represent are the goddesses Isis and Nephthys, who are very often put at either end of the coffin to protect the pharaoh,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be shown as hawks. So, this was very interesting in itself, and I took those images and I actually put them on the internet. I think it's an old net link site. It's still floating around, actually. If you Google my name and dig around a bit, you would find that website, and I put that up. That was back in about 1996.
You don't have this on your main website?
No, I don't, but I put them up there. Well, I have done in the past, but I've changed the website since then. They're not on there at the moment.
Right.
I might put them back. Anyway, so then a few years later, I was contacted by a gentleman from America, and he said he had a recurring dream where he was taken to the Great Pyramid, and he was shown secret chambers in it. And he was actually an architect, so he's actually a good draftsman. And he had drawn pictures of what he was shown. And again, it was 2 chambers. In one, there was a kind of, I'd left this bit out, the kind of like a wine rack with scrolls in it, that she had seen in the first chamber. Which, that to me is more exciting than anything, because that would have writings. I mean, that is a hall of records, isn't it?
That's right, exactly.
And then this gentleman saw the same thing, and he saw the boat, and he saw the tomb. So, from 2 sources, and he claimed that actually there's a secret staircase leading to it that goes from behind one of the slab stones inside the king's chamber. So, he said you could remove this particular stone quite easily. He drew a careful diagram of this. And in there you would find the staircase leading up into that chamber.
Okay.
So I passed this information on to Dr. Joseph Shaw and asked him to pass it to the Egyptian authorities to see if they could do something about this. Now, I don't know if anybody has, but it seemed to me weird that 2 different sources had told me the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think he had come across the website before that. And I don't think he was sort of deliberately having me on. He seemed genuine. But anyway.
So have you in some way tried to correlate the information in regards to looking at diagrams of the pyramid, or see a sketch where you can this room would actually fit in that area or something like that? Have you done?
I think there's plenty of room for it. There's plenty of room. These pyramids are huge.
They are, of course. Yeah.
The chambers that we know about are really quite small.
So do you believe it? Do you think that this is true?
Oh, I'm sure that there's something up there. I mean, the shaft in the Queen's chamber leads to something. It's there for a purpose.
Of course.
They're not going to build. I mean, it's a lot of work building that shaft. If you go to Gantenbrink's own website, if you Google his name, Rudolf Gantenbrink, you'll find his website on the Upawat project, UPUAT, Upawat project. He actually did a full survey of the pyramids, of that particular pyramid anyway, sort of carefully measuring everything. And he's an engineer, and so you'll find out what you want to know about sort of the size of the pyramid and things from there.
Fascinating.
But he shows what engineering work went into actually building those shafts. It wasn't just a simple matter of drilling a hole.
No, of course not.
It causes a lot of difficulty and complication to build it.
Yeah.
So there must be a reason.
But I mean, we've heard now these stories that we today cannot possibly even begin to try to reconstruct the pyramids. So how did they build them? Do you have any idea?
Well, this clairvoyant, claimed that they're built by aliens. I don't know if that's true.
What do you think? What do you believe?
It's possible. I mean, I don't know how else it was built. Let's put it that way.
Right. Okay.
It's not just those pyramids themselves. You look at the outside blocks of the pyramids and you say, well, yeah, heave ho, off we go. We can push them up a ramp and build a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go inside, you find that they're huge blocks of granite, which weigh 40 tons,
Mm.
And how do you haul up a 40-ton block and position that exactly correctly on top of a pyramid, it's 100 feet up in the air,
Yeah.
and you've only got human muscle to pull it up there? It begins to stretch belief, doesn't it?
It does.
And then when you go and look in the Valley Temple down by the Sphinx, some of the blocks there weigh over 60 tons. Vast, great blocks. And you wonder how on earth they manipulate these things. So I don't know. I mean, I have one theory about how you could raise up the smaller blocks, and that's if you want to make something go up, send something else down. So if you had a pulley, if you had a bunch of men climbed up to the right level, they hold a string, and then they jump off, and it would pull something else up the other side, like a lift,
Right.
You have an elevator, there's a weight, isn't there, a counterweight.
Sure.
When the one goes down, the other goes up. They kind of balance the weight that way. I can imagine something a bit similar to that as being one method, but nobody really knows. And when they tried to build a replica, I don't know if you ever saw this little video of, I think it was Mark Lerner, was building a 9-meter high pyramid, very boldly showing how they did it. Well, in the end, they had to get a forklift truck to put the top on. They couldn't do it. And that was just 9 meters,
Exactly.
So you begin to wonder, don't you?
It's so obvious. It stares us in the face. Majority of people today know that they're there, but we cannot just wrap our heads around it. If you really think about it, it's just incredible.
Look at it this way. The Egyptians claim that their gods came from Orion,
right?
Osiris. They brought civilization to the earth, right? This is what's written in their texts. And then after he died, he was resurrected and he ascended to heaven. It's a bit like Jesus, really, isn't it?
There you go.
He's murdered, he's resurrected, and then he ascends to heaven. He goes back to Orion. And coincidentally, we find a bunch of pyramids that look like the belt of Orion. And we don't know how they were built. It begins to make you wonder, doesn't it?
Of course.
Even if you're a skeptic, you've got to start wondering, well, the technology involved here looks a bit more than kind of ox cart. It's all level, It's like if you go into Africa and you see, some village there and you come across a great big colonial mansion. And then you look around, it's all overgrown and, the garden's all overgrown and it's falling down a bit. And there's some guys living in a few huts. And you say, well, the ancestors of these guys must have built this colonial mansion.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't figure. If you knew a bit of history, you'd realize that actually this was once a colony, and there were people came there, and they're the ones who built the mansion, not the guys who are living there now.
Yeah.
So you begin to think that when you look at these big monuments like the pyramids, and you begin to think, well, it wasn't these ox cart people who built this, It must have been someone who had more technology at their disposal.
And again, just to emphasize the idea that this isn't the only place on Earth where this pops up. It's all over the world. Tiwanaku, pyramids in China, Chichen Itza, as you mentioned, are just a handful of the hundreds of megalithic sites around the world,
Or even places like Stonehenge.
Absolutely.
Amazing monument. But, those big pillars that you see at Stonehenge, they're not all the same length, but they are right at the height. The height's right to make a nice level platform to put the horizontal ones on, which means the depth of the hole has to vary. Right. Stick that in the chalk.
Yeah.
Now you can imagine that you heave this thing up. Oh my goodness, it's 6 inches too low. We need to fill the hole up. Pull it out again. Put some more earth in. Try it again. No, it's still a bit too low, or it's too high now. You need to take it. Can you imagine? Is that what they did? It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is.
How on earth did they manage it?
It's
weird.